Hi, I'm Vladimir Kuzmin. Today my new story about my two instruments. Half-digital synthesizer Maestro and the vocal synthesizer VS34. Maybe you consider them two brothers, but then they are not two brothers, because Maestro beginning of production is 1986 and Arton VS34 the beginning of production is 1992. I'd like to mention that in 1991 I left reactor plant, and so VS34 was in production without me. I didn't see it in serial production. Well, let's begin with Maestro. Let me tell you that the middle of 80s, 1985, 1984, 86, we began to think about digital synthesis, digital musical instruments. But we knew nothing about them, about their principles, but we already knew half-digital synthesis. What I mean? We have digit-controlled oscillators. They produce several waveforms, and then we have filtering circuits for having special timbres. That's why I began to think about half-digital synthesizer with preset timbres. What I mean? Our components, Russian components, were not very fast. We had no large-scale integrated circuits. What we have, only processors and several ICs servicing that processors. Processors were very slow, but enough to control keyboard knobs, to set digits to digital oscillators, and they can produce several waveforms that we need for special timbres. I must stop in this point and to explain the dependence between waveform of signal, its spectrum, and its link or dependence with a special timbre. There were many researchers explaining dependence between spectrum of oscillations in natural instruments and its dependence with the timbre of these instruments. For example, if we have sawtooth waveform of oscillation, we have all harmonics in the spectrum of this signal, beginning with the first harmonic, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, so on. If we have square wave, where pulse occupies half of a whole period, we have odd spectrum with only odd harmonics, and this timbre is more close to clarinet and flute timbres. More narrow pulse, for example, occupying 1/3 of the whole period, we have no harmonics in the spectrum. For example, if we have 1/3, we have no third, sixth, and so on harmonics in the spectrum. Sawtooth spectrum, very close to brass instruments, stringed instruments, square wave, more close to clarinet timbres and flute timbres, and with a narrow pulse, you have a spectrum more close to double reeds instruments, for example, oboe, bassoon. So, we have already computer inside, a Russian not very fast computer, but enough to control keyboard, to control knobs, all knobs, to perform function of arpeggiator, and then 4 generators, digital generators, they produce 3 waveforms each. Sawtooth waveform, square wave waveform, and pulse with narrow pulse waveform. Each with different spectrum, but very good for synthesizing any timbres. Then all these signals go to PC board with filtering circuits. What concerning structure of synthesizer? Let's hear it and all its timbres. Well, first of all, I'd like to show you how works our famous keyboard with Gerkons. Here is 1 octave of this keyboard. This is here is PC board with Gerkons. Here are Gerkons. This is place for spring. Especially for you, I make this simple circuit: battery, LED, light emitting diode, and Gerkons. What? Here is Gerkon. Gerkon is golden plated, 2 ferrum wires placed in a vacuum bulb. Each key has magnet inside. When we move Gerkon magnet towards Gerkon, you see, Gerkon is shut. When off, Gerkon is off. Very reliable keyboard with not less than 1 million contacts. Well, let's move to Maestro. This is a place with timbres. You can find timbre you like and then choose column and row. For example, alto, cello, cello. This row, strings, all row is strings. 5 rows, keyboard, strings, rows, woodwind, rows, and brass row. So, cello. here is cello. Violin. Let's go to piano. First column is clarinet. Some decaying sounds. Then go several timbres piano. Harpsy. Strings. By the way, you can add a chorus effect to any timbre. Okay, woodwind, beginning with bassoon. Clarinet. Oboe. Flute. Piccolo. That goes brass instrument, beginning with the tuba. Well, we have field here. Trombone. Trumpet. I'm not a good player, but you hear the perfect timbres. So we have 4 rows with 5 and 5 columns, total 20 timbres. Well, let's go to arpeggiator. Well, you can add decay to any timbre. Well, let's go to arpeggiator. Arpeggiator dash tremolo. Let's switch to tremolo. You can switch between memory and keyboard. Here is I switch to memory, and you can switch to keyboard. Well, let's switch to arpeggiator. That's arpeggiator. The principle of Maestro and a particular arpeggiator so that there is not turns or when perfect each key is sounds. It can be first. The second can be higher than the third, etc., and so on. Forward and back. Keyboard or memory. Each time when we press keyboard keys at once, you get various arpeggiations. It depends when each key is depressed. So you can get various effects, various timbres besides these 20 timbres. MaestroVS34. This name stands for vocal synthesizer, 3 octaves, 4 voices. The same principle as Maestro, but more simple. Very interesting history of this instrument. In 1988, I began to think about processor of effects, vocoder. And I wanted to know which type of vocoder is best for synthesizing human speech, human voice. Because we already know graphic vocoders And I'd like to know which type of vocoder is the best. I went to Moscow to Professor Michael Saposhkov and asked him directly what kind of vocoder is the best for synthesizing natural speech. He said, of course, Formant vocoder. Good. I went back to Vector and began to project Formant vocoder. I already made schematics, have a working sample, but at one day this thing was stopped. And I began to think what to do with all this work. And thought that there will be good to have some kind next step of Maestro. The main thing was to make vocal synthesizer. And the main idea was, for example, look, you have, for example, a small city, a small ensemble, small band. You already can find guitar players, drum players, even keyboard players, or even one singer. But you couldn't find the 4 good singing men or women. That's why it will be good to give to this small band instrument for padding vocals, and to add vocals, big vocals ensemble for voices. It is very big ensemble. To have vocal pads for this singer. That's why VS34 was born. What are formants? Formant is a narrow band in all spectrum of voice. Human speech has 3 or 4 more formants, which are very slow. These bands are mouth, throat, and nose. These are main formants. They are moving when we speak. Men and women formants are different. Women formants are moved in higher than men formants. So we can have 4 voices, digital voices, and PC board with analog filters. When we can produce men and women vowels, A, O, U, and E. Also arpeggiator, chorus, filter, and also the same joystick as in Maestro. So now you will hear how it sounds. And this is MaestroVS34 vocal synthesizer. The same field to choose men and women, A, O, U, E vowels, module of arpeggiator, filter, decay, chorus, and so on. Very similar to Maestro. First of all, you can switch off the model of formant synthesis. And you get simply organ-like sounds. You can use filter. Or use like organ on strings. You have joystick. The same arpeggiator. Arpeggiator or tremolo, just the same. Well, special switch for switching on model of formant synthesis. Well, I can show. We switch male A, O, U, E. This is just A. O. You see, unlike wavetable synthesis, for example, you can get vowels in a very narrow band, in middle, in lows, in middles, or in highs. Here you can see that we have 3 octaves, and every vowel is just the same as in highs, in middles, or in lows. Let's switch to female. You can get 4 voices at once. Not very natural, like sampler wavetable, but in far field somewhere at on the scene, like vocal pads, it's quite good. You can switch on some articulation effects. when you depress the key, you get one vowel. When you depress the key, you hear another vowel. You have two types of articulation effects. You can choose any you like. As I already told, that its production began after my leaving Vector. That's why this is the first unit I can hold. The serial number is 13, September 1992. I don't know how many there were manufactured, but this is one of them. MaestroVS34 vocal synthesizer. Thank you.